succeed in creating, downloading the dependencies and creating Hibernate project, Hibernate Maven project. So only 2 out of 200. Okay, so error cases later. Yeah, that is what, at the end of it, Sakshi, where if it has worked, that is what I'm interested in. Yeah, so force update also is the hack, basically. So as long as it is working fine, I'm happy with it. What Sakshi said was, so when you say right click, Maven, here you have a update project. There is a checkbox here. So Sakshi, this tells me that in the first version, when you tried, it did not work. Some of the dependencies did not get downloaded. So when you say force update, it will delete the earlier stuff and update it again. Like I said, more time I don't want to spend here in the theory session, but over time, in the lab session, of course, I'll help individually every one of you. So now, before I take you formally to Hibernate and start explaining, we have our earlier project to test. So day 9.1, this was a web project, web application. So let me just go back to what? Web perspective, J2E perspective. Did anyone test this? Day 9.1, the web application. Has anyone tried the web application? I don't think so. Anyway, let me run this. And if there are any obvious problems, we'll try to fix. This is that web application which we built, CMS, Content Management System, in a admin flow. As always. So I'm just opening this. And do you remember where I have written this SOP? In session creator, in that session listener. So the moment client sends any request to that login.jsp, JSP automatically, for JSP container, automatically manages the session. So session is already created. And in that, user bean, topic bean, and tutorial bean, 3 bean attributes, rather 3 attributes are already added, and we are ready to get started. So let me test this. I'm logging in as a administrator. So I'm just adding. So this part we had already tested. So let us say, suppose I'm adding it in JSP. The name is maybe, do I have anything in JSP? Just a second. I don't have anything in JSP. Okay, so JSP EL syntax, let's say, or JSP JSTL. Author, some author, and some published date. So now let me give the published date way back, 2010. So tell me, is this going to be accepted or is this going to be rejected? If I give 2010, we are in 2022. Accepted, valid or invalid? Quickly respond something, of course. So here I'm not, we're testing this. Oh, new tutorial added. Something, there's a bug somewhere. So it should have been, see the thing, new tutorial added, I'm getting nicely. So let's see what that bug is. It has added the tutorial. So where should I debug? What should I debug, guys? Debugging is fun. Debugging is what makes you a programmer. You should be able to identify. So this thing bean, of course. So get topics, it is fine. So tutorial bean. Find out my mistake. Take it up. It's our mistake. So beans, tutorial bean. It has happily added. So I'm wondering what is wrong. So here. So contents.length. If contents.length is less than 255, this is fine. And months elapsed. Did I mess up in the get months? Okay, let's not waste time like this. Anyway, we like to debug. So here, let's stop this. Has anyone found the problem, obvious problem? Then I won't waste time in debugging. You can check. Date is the published date. Should be the first argument. What should be the, now should be the first argument. Mm, is it the between the between? So from that earlier date to this date, is it so? I don't think so, frankly. Anyway, I'll just SOP few things. If it doesn't work, or okay, I don't want to do the SOP business. Anyway, we'll debug. So here, what I'll do is I'll stop the server and open the. I've not shown you. I mean, I've shown you debugging in core Java, but I never got a chance to show you in enterprise Java. So how do you debug? Same things. So let me add the breakpoint here, toggle breakpoint. And how do you debug this application? Same, right click, debug as debug on server. So Tomcat will automatically launch it in a debug mode. I'm just, like I said, you might be correct. That period, if it is negative, then of course. So maybe I'll have to swap the arguments. Mohammed was telling me something. I just took it up as a chance to, show you the debugging. So Rama and 1, 2, 3, 4. Something. So now it has entered the debugging point. So go to the backend and I'm saying switch. Okay. So now let us open our watch window and let's see this date 201011 is fine. And here, let's see, run. I'm saying function key F6 and I'm just printing the months elapsed. Months elapsed with 0. Okay, so what is wrong? So I'll see. Update is 010. Why I'm getting the months elapsed at 0? Are you understanding what I'm debugging, guys? Months elapsed I'm getting at 0. Period. Have I made a mess? Period dot between.
पीरियड का शायद बिटवीन से पीरियड में ही जाता है वो, मतलब उसी टाइप के वेरिएबल में जाता है
क्या? अरे गेट वंस किया ना, पीरियड डॉट बिटवीन का पीरियड दिया, लेकिन उसमें गेट वंस निकाला ना उससे. Get the amount of months of this period. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, months unit is not automatically normalized with years. Okay. I know. So what is that? Get normalized months है क्या है इसका? Get. I think the difference वो year का count नहीं हो रहा है. वो इसका हो रहा है. Anyone? That's not a this. No. Now first what आएगा? Days. So get days, no. I think what they have told us about, if I say get months, so this month is not automatically normalized. This means that a period of 15 months is different than period of 1 year and 3 months. So the amount of this period may be negative. So the period between 2010 to this. So I'm just thinking about it. I forgot there is some API which gives you the normalized months. Google it. Anyway, currently I will just take a shortcut. I'll count it in years. And there is a method I've forgotten currently to find the normalized months. Means what? I want the total months counted in a normalized manner. So currently, I'm sorry, I'm taking a shortcut because I don't want to waste the Hibernate time. So just say get years. And here, let's say years elapsed. Okay. Later I'll correct it. If anyone can tell me the API immediately, it will be great. You understood the problem or you did not understand the problem? Tell me, guys. Understood the problem? See, it was, I had given 201011. So here, You are giving the same thing, Srinivas. P.get_months. That is the same thing I did. So what is, you are not giving me anything new. That is because you have given the different inputs, so it is working. It is not giving the normalized months. So I cannot accept your suggestion, Srinivas. It's not going to work. If you give 201011 and tell me. So I'm just taking a shortcut. I will definitely fix it. All I'm not remembering is the method which will give me the months in the normalized format. Years I'm going for, get years. So I'll not get. So if it is, let's say years elapsed is less than, let's say 2 years old, I'm going for. It's a hack. It's not a last, a final solution. We will solve it definitely. I mean, I will solve. Actually, you should take it up. So let me change the perspective back to Enterprise Java. So I've changed my problem statement to say 2 years. Did I do it correctly? That condition, if years elapsed is less than 2. Yeah. Period dot between normalized. Okay, Avinash, I'll look it up and I'll check it. Okay, you test it at your own end, Avinash, and tell me in a confirmed manner it worked. Because Srinivas, I don't think he got it right. I mean, he did not understand what I'm looking for. Avinash, you check it out, and in some way, 10 minutes break or something, I'll test it and come back to you. If you don't get it all at that by the time. So here, what we are saying is admin user. Oh, this is already added entry. So that primary key ka problem, JSPL syntax, and oh, I terminated it. So this is fine. GraphQL, Swagger, something else. So okay, yeah, finally. There's a bug in that get months. I mean, doesn't give the normal at months. So this is what is expected very much. So now let me give the proper one. So under JPA, I don't have anything, right? And this name is also not there. Fine. So let's say author. And now let me give the recent date. So let's say 2021. So this is a fairly recent tutorial. Some contents. So it says tutorial added, and we have forced her logout. And I'm just checking. Spring data JPA GraphQL. Yes. So like I said, that get months was the bug. It is not giving me normalized months. So I just changed it to years. So if it is between these last 2 years, things are working fine. And let us see, confirm that user DAO, all the DAOs are cleaned up. And anyone remembers what is it we have called in that session destroyed event? I mean, session closed event. We have closed the connection. Okay, so the connection is opened and closed in a particular session. So if you parallelly open another user, another connection instance, another set of down instances will be given. So let me send you this as a zip. Only one thing I would like to change is the normalized months. But like I said, that I'll do it later. Only reason is I don't want to even further delay beginning of Hibernate. Okay, so sending you day 9.1. Ankit, individual queries I'm not solving here. You share your screen. You may have forgotten. You already have closed the connection elsewhere, and you have Shubham. I said I already Ashutosh told me that normalize. So apply it and do that much on your own, and we will resync in the lab session. So in the during time, you work it out. I'll check the solution, whatever you present directly in the lab session. Okay. So I've sent you the latest updated zip file. Take a look at it. and modifiers. People are giving me the solution period has a normalized method. So use that. From that normalized get months and go for the original one. So tell me, we've spent, I think, enough time since morning. Has everyone got what is it called? Idea about JSP, Java Bean, DAO layers? Have you got the idea about the layers? So you should be able to, I mean, you will practice it, of course. Nothing comes without the practice. But I want this second half and some of the lab session time also, because otherwise, you know, it will never complete properly. So in the Hibernate, let us open the topic, the first topic. Like I said, this was all the first half, basic half of J2E. Now we are entering into second half, which will have Hibernate followed by Spring Framework. So some of you have already successfully downloaded the dependencies, but here is my suggestion. Those who want to code along, even though there are red crosses and your dependencies are not downloaded, continue with the steps so that at least your code base means code part will be ready. And then in the lab session, you have so many lab faculties, including myself. We will help you individually. But I'll give you some solutions. If you are downloaded, if your dependencies are not downloaded, one is that force update. And another one is, think of it as a troubleshooting tip. Open the folder which I'm doing, only do it little faster because this is actually a lab session activity. But since some of you would like to correct that error in the meantime, try this in your lunch break, whatever I'm suggesting. So statement 1, if it is properly working, all dependencies, Maven dependencies are downloaded, do not touch your project. So this troubleshooting tip is only for those for whom it did not work. And the only reason is your network bad connection. If you have a strong, steady network connection, 100% jars get downloaded properly and you don't face an issue. Okay, so let me, so in case it doesn't work, when you log off from this Zoom call, connect to a stable network, a good speed network or stable network. It should not in between drop, and do this. So before that, already some of the jars, some of the plugins may have got downloaded in a haphazard manner. So there is a cleanup instruction. So go to your home dir. So my home directory is users, Madhura. So under your home dir, you will find a hidden folder .m2. M2 stands for Maven 2. It's for a Maven. And has everyone found it? Please just remember this troubleshooting instructions in case troubleshooting in case you face a problem ever. You found it? Okay. So in that, there would be already created a repository folder. My repository is quite big. I mean, I've been doing it for years. So, but you will have under the repository. So one of the dependencies which you have downloaded is Hibernate. You will see in a short while, all Hibernate packaging starts with org.hibernate. So O for org. And here, Hibernate. So here, and you will see Hibernate core jar. These are all downloaded. So currently I have given you 5.4.30. This is the one which we will use with your Spring Boot and all that. So in short, some of the jars may be downloaded, some of them may not be. So what is a kill-all? Kill-all means total cleanup solution. Listen to this. Step 1. Exit from, this is not to be done now. So note it somewhere, add it, write it somewhere in a notepad something. So first exit from IDE. With IDE, don't do that because you will say that, okay, this folder is in use and all that. Okay, so exit from IDE and simply delete the repository folder. Close IDE, delete repository folder, and then you can directly import my day 9 Maven Hibernate or whatever that day 9 Hibernate project. And once you import, automatically the jars will start getting downloaded all over again. Okay, so So only one thing I have to tell you is how to import. Now this is not an ordinary project. This is a Maven project. So the steps for importing Maven project slightly different. So for them, I mean, those who want to, those who have created in a standalone manner working fine, don't even look at it. I mean, sometime you'll require. So how do you import my existing Maven project in your workspace? Step 1, copy. This is my day 9 Hibernate. I said copy. Copy physically. Physically means from the folder structure. So go to your workspace. All these things I'm going to repeat, but slowly in the lab session, not in the theory session. So this is our, no, not this. This is our current workspace. So go to your workspace, for example, Java E, and copy day 9 Hibernate. Copy it in the folder. And then what you do is just import, but slightly different. So file, note it somewhere if you're not able to do it in a fast manner or parallel, because your repository has to be built again. File, import. I'll open this. Are you going to use this general tab? No. Which type of project you want to import? Maven project. My day 9 Hibernate is a Maven project. Now onwards, we are going to create so many Maven style projects. Spring Boot itself is a Maven project. So can you see a tab? I mean, can you see an item here, Maven? So expand that. And then you have existing Maven projects. Okay. So this is a slight change in the importing existing Maven project. Next step. And here you can say browse. And I told you, already copy it into your workspace. So it has already selected this. So select folder. And here you can say, I mean, currently I can't do it because it is already there. So there's no checkboxes and all, copy projects, and simply say finish here. Okay. So try out all these things. In case nothing works, we will definitely help you. See, we cannot help you. We means myself or any of the lab faculties cannot help you with your net connection, obviously. So improve your net connection. Now import the project. First clear off all that repository. Import the project, and 100% your jars will get, I mean, all the dependencies will get downloaded. Okay, so those were the practical steps, lab steps. Now, of course, we are not done with the steps, but I don't want to blindly start you on the steps. Let me give you Hibernate overview. What is it all about? The Hibernate blocks, Hibernate architecture, and then we are going to continue after whatever time I discuss in Hibernate. Why Hibernate? We start with that naturally. So after that, we are going to continue with this project. So you have got something like 20-30 minutes easily to cope up, to catch up. Okay. So I'll write down this properly in our advanced Java lab instructions. Do what all things in sequence, and you will definitely, you'll get a feel of it. So now I have already sent you Hibernate help. I'll tell you which ones to open. It's a quite exhaustive. Exhaustive means long help. So here, let me start with the readmes. Are you going to understand, or am I telling you that read all of it? It is not. It is going to continue for next 3-4 days. 90% of Hibernate I cover here, and whatever 10-20% I cover with Spring Hibernate integration. So all these will be used somewhere. So here, first thing you should look at is, okay, sorry. These are all, I feel excellent for interview helps and all, answering questions, basically. So the first thing you should read is, the name is README Hibernate. So read this much and I'll start explaining. So I am sorry for disturbing you while you are reading. So now for remaining days, whatever remaining days we have till whatever, 1st or 2nd February, we have time together. So in those remaining days, you are not going to create any JDBC based DAO layer. You are going to continue with, today I'll start with a native Hibernate based DAO layer. Then I'll graduate you to JPA based DAO layer. And ultimately in your project, you're going to use Spring Data JPA. But Spring Data JPA internally uses Hibernate. So without understanding Hibernate, you cannot do anything. So that is your first day in Hibernate. No, no, no. Don't do anything deletion. As long as there are no red crosses and all, don't. Right now, Kunal, let's not disturb the flow. Ask all these questions in the lab session, please. Because, I get distracted. Now follow the theory flow, concept flow, please. Okay, so let's start understanding it line by line. What is Hibernate? It is your one-stop solution to the this thing persistence problem. So, or it is going to give you a ready-made persistence, automatic and transparent persistence. Okay, so the whole important word here is persistence. So tell me, what is the meaning of persistence? Saving the information in a permanent manner is persistence. So do you remember the topic? This one, Kunal, nothing, sorry. I mean, I just told you because otherwise, the flow gets broken. So here, let me ask you. If I ask you about, okay, sorry, I was going to give you the hint. You remember serialization, deserialization, which we did in core Java? Everyone should remember it. I told you at that time it is very important. So in core Java, using object stream classes, which classes? Object output stream, object input stream. We were saving the state of the Java object into which data, into which format, sorry, not format, into which destination binary file. No, binary stream is fine, but where we were storing that binary stream is in a binary file. So now to connect with that, you are going to see Hibernate helping you to store the state of the Java object directly, but in a binary file or in a database. Of course, database. Okay, so managing persistence is saving the state of Java objects directly in database is what you're going to see. Okay, another introduction. So when people ask you, if you take a Java technology as a backend, of course you'll be using Hibernate. So if people ask you what is Hibernate, give the full description. Give us such a detailed answer that people don't have to grill you further kinds. So it is also nothing but a ORM tool. What is ORM? Object to relational mapping. So tell me, all these, today is what? 9th day, right? Yeah. So first 8 days, we were using JDBC as a data access technology, data access layer. Everyone understands that? JDBC was being used in the DAO layer. So now, recall you, everyone has written so many DAO layers by now. So I'll take a simple example. Suppose I say, select star from users, a simple query. So who had to map the information from the database which appears in the result set? Who had to map it to the object? Programmer, or was it done ready-made? Programmer, we had to write a DAO layer developer. You remember? We had to say rst.getInt, rst.getString, rst.get double, get boolean, get date, whatever. And we had to map. We had to do the object, rather relational database to object mapping. So what is the good news here? Do we want to continue doing this exercise? Absolutely not. Hibernate is a ORM tool. Hibernate is one of the tools in the market. Of course, there are others, but the highest, most popular one, the pioneer in automatic persistence is Hibernate. So coming back to the point, hereafter, will you have to process the result set? Even will you be thinking in, database connection, prepare statements, result set, executing query? Absolutely not. So who will be that intermediary? Who will provide you the abstraction of all the JDBC APIs and the data access? Hibernate. So here, this is a ORM tool which will automatically give you object to relational mapping. You won't understand the gravity of it unless until we start writing something. So okay, why don't I talk in something which you will understand easily. Open, you don't have to open, I can open for you. Open one of the DAO layers. Let me just do this. Tutorial DAO. Okay, something, anything. Okay, so I just open the topic DAO, easiest. And here I have select start from topics. So see the efforts a JDBC developer has to take. We had to open the connection. That is, we had to write a DB utils and we had to say, what was that? Driver manager.get connection. I told you that's a fixed connection. So that is not at all a scalable solution. So we had to invest time in singletonning, etc. Then we had to prepare the statements. We had to add that query. I mean, whatever query, select start from topics. And then we had to execute the query. We as a developer get the result set and entire result set processing, including reading the result set and mapping it to topic and putting it, adding it in the list. What if I say all of this will reduce to zero? Of course, it won't reduce to zero. There is some Hibernate bootstrapping, some initial steps in Hibernate. But after you set up Hibernate-based DAO layer, you just have a method. You just have a, there is something called as Hibernate session, which is the heart of Hibernate. And you simply say, you simply call a query. See, there are methods, and there's a special method called as get result list. And that get result list doesn't return you result set. It returns you list of POJOs directly. So it is little bit ahead of time. But the point I wanted to make is, once you enter Hibernate, who is going to do object to relational mapping? Hibernate APIs or programmer? Or rather Hibernate or programmer? Answer is Hibernate. Okay, you will be using session API shortly. So it is basically for automatic persistence. Now the another popular question around is JPA versus Hibernate. People ask you, okay, you have done so much. Tell me, what is JPA, what is Hibernate? One of the popular things. So JPA stands for Java Persistence API. So is JPA specification or implementation? Specs or implementation? Answer is in front of you. It is a specification. Is it a part of a standard J2E specification, like your servlet specification, JSP specification, JSTL, Java Bean, etc.? 100% yes. So who is your specification vendor? Who is telling you what is to be done? It is Oracle purchased over Sun. And you know, from J2E 8 onwards, Eclipse Foundation, Jakarta EE basically. But implementation of this JPA API is left to what? Is left to whom? Vendor. But guys, vendor is a very loose term. Never use loose terms in the interviews because they will catch you. So see, there is something like JDBC vendor, there are database vendors, there are web server vendors. So which vendor I'm talking about? I'm talking about persistence provider. Who is going to implement your persistence API? In short, JPA vendor. So here, implementer of JPA, the famous one or the most popular one is Hibernate. Somebody was asking me, Kunal. I mean, like I said, there's nothing to be sorry about. So he was saying me that he's got some version 5.4.18 or something. I'll look into it later. So the point is that Hibernate core jar basically contains the implementation classes. So guys, today and next 2-3 days, till I take you to Spring, we will be focusing on Hibernate native APIs. So once you finish the first level, okay, 0th level was JDBC. Today you are climbing the next step and in form of Hibernate native APIs, then JPA, and finally Spring Data JPA. Okay, so that is learning curve. So coming back to the point, what is JPA? Specifications. But what is Hibernate? You can advertise means describe Hibernate as one of the JPA implementers in the market, which is totally popular. Okay, so this is your go-to or understanding points about Hibernate. It is the one who is going to manage the persistence layer. Major changes you will have in will be in the earlier we were doing the JDBC based DAO layer, that will be totally replaced by Hibernate based DAO layer. It is going to provide you a J2E specification implementation in form of JPA. Today we'll go for native implementation, Hibernate specific implementation, and then I'll take you to the further steps later. So this is already written. So what are we going to do? Same object is what we did in JDBC, but in a very advanced manner. So initially we'll start with CRUD applications. And once the basic half of Hibernate, basic half is only CRUD. You cannot stop at CRUD because when you work in projects, you will have so many relationships between entities and so many things. So today, tomorrow, maybe tomorrow first half, I don't know, I can't predict the timing. We will complete CRUD. That will give you the added, understanding about Hibernate. And then we will start the advanced topics in Hibernate, such as inheritance, association, has a relationships, one-to-one, many-to-many, etc. So that will be the thing. Now, little bit about history. Who is the founder of Hibernate? Gavin King is the name of the founder. And it is a very matured framework. It has been, the support was added, or it was founded. The whole concept of persistence started in 2001. Earlier, it was hosted on this. Today, it is hosted on most of the projects either on GitHub or SourceForge.net. So it is on SourceForge.net. So if you see my Hibernate help, in one of the things, knowing that it is so important for you as a Java programmer, I've already supplied certain ebooks. So this one, Java Persistence with Hibernate, is authored by Gavin King. So this can be like your go-to or a Bible kind of a thing, go-to kind of a thing for your understanding. And when I take you a little further, I'll tell you there are very good, excellent topics, relationships, and all is very nicely covered in ProJPA 2. So when I go to more details, I'll give you more information. So it is JPA compliant, full-fledged. The latest stable version is 5.x. So actually 5.6.3 is also there in the Maven repository, but like I had given the version of 5.0 because it is a known working version. But the other thing is, don't be misled by statements. Is Hibernate the only ORM provider, only ORM framework in the industry? Absolutely not. The other popular ones are Eclipse Link. There is a iBatis. There is a JDO. I mean, Java Data. I have not written that. Kodo. And so many providers exist. After Advanced Java, sometime you will be doing the .NET. So those who have the .NET experience, do you know about entity frameworks in .NET? I don't know whether anyone is .NET aware. So there is a parallel. Like how we have an ORM framework, in .NET you will learn the entity framework. And then that time you'll find it so easy that you can literally correlate that this is what we were doing in Java using Hibernate, Data, JP and all. And this is how you work in an entity framework. So much so that, I mean, I'm not a .NET expert at all. I just know a little bit superficially. So we have POJO. Everyone knows about POJO. What does POJO stand for? Plain old Java object. You know what you are going to hear there? POCO. Plain old C# object. And then it will become so easy for you to do it in a comparison manner. Like this is what you did in Java, this is what you will be doing in .NET kinds. Okay, so this is your very basic introduction to Hibernate. But when you say why Hibernate, when I say why Hibernate, what I mean is what are the advantages of Hibernate over JDBC? There are like more than 20 reasons. So this is already mentioned. So one part, I'm just thinking what will give you the better idea. There is a full-fledged separate README by Hibernate. Guys, definitely go through these READMEs. So the first README you will read today is README Hibernate, and the next one is why Hibernate. So here, read this slowly. And I'll start explaining. This is the one of the strongest reason. Other reasons I've mentioned in that other README, the detailed README. So start reading with me. Once you migrate from JDBC to Hibernate, J2E developer like you and me, we don't have to use the JDBC API and go to the relational database level. Do you have to go to the table level, SQL queries, rows and the columns? Answer is no. We will just spend time in bootstrapping, in configuring Hibernate framework. And are we going to leave our object world ever to go to the relational database world? Answer is never. So we will create something called as transient POJOs. All this terminology will become clear over. And your Hibernate is going to take those transient entities, transient POJOs. Transient means not yet persistent. And per transient POJO, what does a particular POJO instance refer? Column, row, or table in a database? What is an entity to POJO instance? What does it represent? A row. So you will see the magic of Hibernate, which you will see in a couple of minutes. If the database table corresponding to the POJO doesn't exist, automatic table creation will happen and a record will be inserted. And for all this, of course, I mean, it doesn't happen automatically. You have to set it up. Things will start becoming automatically when you learn Spring Boot. But till then, you have to little bit write code. So coming back to the point, you can rely on not entity framework, Hibernate framework to manage persistence. So please don't expect all the statements which I'm making to reach you because this is just a first hour in Hibernate, but at least some things can reach you. So I'm mentioning only those some things. So before I tell you to convert means this thing, go from JDBC to Hibernate, I have to sell Hibernate to you. In short, I have to tell you why Hibernate. The number of jars, whatever you have, they are not licensed. It is all open source and lightweight because the number of jars, if you compare with Hibernate to Kodo or other frameworks, is a lot less. The performance is what we always go for. So let me ask you a question in JDBC. Does JDBC support caching, or rather did, because it is a past tense now. Did JDBC APIs support caching? It's a yes or no answer. Let's see what you say. Answer is no, but I'm not sure whether you understood or you just blindly gave the answer. Let me ask you. Everyone knows prepared statement. So if you say, okay, let me talk an example. Suppose I want to find out the user details of user ID, let's say 101. So how would you do it in JDBC? You have to open the connection, you have to create the prepared statement, you have to set the in parameter, and which SQL? Select query. Select start from users, where user ID equal to question mark. Understanding me totally? Okay, so now the story. So if I call pst.execute query, let's say 10 times. How many times the select query will be fired on the database in JDBC? If I call pst.execute query 10 times, of course, select query will be fired 10 times. But guys, you are fetching the same results from the database. So are these database results cached anywhere? Stored anywhere in the memory? Absolutely not. Enter Hibernate and you will see there are 3 levels of caching. So there is something called as, if you have done the OS concepts, have you heard the term L1 cache with OS? Okay. So you have a L1 cache. I mean, they have taken the concepts from operating system. Where else? They means Hibernate people. So there is a level 1 cache, which is a session level, whatever that is. Then there is a L2 cache and there is a query level cache. So you answer my final question. Reading the results from cache will be faster, or reading the results all the way from database will be faster? Obvious question. Cache results are always faster. That will give you the performance boost. Like I said, there are 20 reasons. You can't understand all 20, but some things you will understand. So this was one of it. Now tell me, all these days, while we were in JDBC, were we writing 100% database independent code or only partial database independence? Partial or complete? So answer my next question. Suppose you keep those database configuration parameters, DB URL, username, password outside. So you don't have to change it. Of course, JDBC connector has to be changed. Database configuration has to be changed. Done. Understood. Accepted. But what else has to be changed from database to database in JDBC? No answer. No. My English problem. I mean, our English communication problem. Query is the answer. I said, guys, already, database configuration parameter, you externalize, keep it in XML. So no code change. JDBC connector is anyway external. But on the top of that, still the SQL syntax, if it changes, your code is no longer database independent. So what were we using in JDBC? Your choices are database independent queries or database specific SQL queries. Database specific. So now in Hibernate, are we going to use database specific SQL or are we going to the object oriented form of it? Answer is object oriented form. So if you, I'm not going to show you HQL because HQL is again Hibernate specific. So tomorrow in your organization, people are not using Hibernate, but they are using Kodu. So then there's zero, help. So what is specification? JPA. So there is something called as JPQL, which we'll be using. Java persistence query language, which is what? Don't worry, it's not a new learning. It is just an objectified SQL. But the moment I use either HQL or JPQL, who is going to translate from that JPQL, HQL to SQL? Hibernate. Okay, Hibernate is one of the vendors, JPA vendor. So those database independent queries will get translated to database specific SQL. So now tell me, will your Java application, will it be partially database independent or completely database independent? Answer is completely database independent. There is no this thing. There is no, what is it called? Dependency on a particular SQL. The another great thing which attracts the beginner, till now, whatever we have written, that content management system and that whatever employees and all that, what used to be the starting point? We had to start from the tables first, right? We had to create, I mean, you did not suffer because I was giving you all the tables all the time. I mean, there was hardly any great effort. But the point is, we had to create the tables and populate it, right? Wait for Hibernate to take over. And what we are going to observe is, we will be creating a Pojo, and who will be creating the corresponding table? Pojo class, who will be correspondingly creating a table for us? Hibernate. Okay, so that is really like, in the first few hours, you feel it is magical. What typically scares the SQL programmers is complex join. So here, I've given some example of a join. So this is your SQL version of join. And when I take you to, something like JPQL, you can see, you yourself tell me, which looks simpler, JPQL join version or your SQL join version? This is just to display the course name ordered by something, JPQL. And then you have query analysis, so many tools and existing. Again, I'm saying there is a lot of points which you will understand after spending at least 2-3 days in Hibernate, not immediately. But this you will definitely understand. Tell me, in every DAO layer, okay, let me rephrase it. If something goes wrong in JDBC, which is the exception it will raise? You know all this. Whatever I'm explaining, you know already. It's a SQL exception. So tell me, is SQL exception checked or unchecked? Checked. So we are forced to handle it. So we were just delegating from DAO to Bean and Bean to JSP, and then we wrote something like error handler page, etc. But the good news is Hibernate translates. Okay, when I say translate, what Hibernate does is Hibernate catches all these checked SQL exceptions, database specific SQL exceptions, and translates it to unchecked Hibernate exception. So the moment I say the root means superclass of Hibernate specific errors is Hibernate exception. The moment it is an unchecked one, will you be forced to handle it, or will Java compiler doesn't force the handling of the unchecked exception? Of course, you won't be forced to handle it. Are you understanding what I'm saying? In short, in simple English, throws Hibernate exception, mandatory or optional, totally optional, because it is a unchecked exception. And there are tons of reasons why you are learning Hibernate. For example, it supports all object-oriented features, has a relationship, collections, etc. So at least I hope I got you interested in learning Hibernate. Are you got, I mean, you don't have a choice, frankly. You have to learn, but at least are you feeling interested in knowing what this is all about? So let's start on that note, and let me get you slightly deeper, not completely deep yet. So open the diagrams. Again, so many, not all of them are for today naturally. So open that Hibernate overview. Do you remember seeing it a week ago in JDBC? I told you that time. I did not want to start an important concept of ORM, because imagine you did not hear anything about ORM and suddenly I bombard Hibernate and ORM. Impossible. So everyone knows this. This is my object world, Java world. This is your relational database world. And the intermediary, earlier we were using JDBC, but JDBC developer had to go to the relational database and do it everything ourselves. So who is going to be this intermediate middle tier? Hibernate. I mean, one of the JPA vendor is Hibernate. And who is going to manage this object to relational mapping? Answer is Hibernate again. So these three level correspondence you already know. What you already know is table is represented by a Pojo class, table column by Pojo properties, rows by Pojo class instances. And you will see when I start developing, when we start programming a little bit, the first few things in Hibernate, you will see there is a fourth level compulsory mapping. Anytime you want to create a properly normalized tables, a table should have a primary key, unless until it is a link table or pivot table or join table. And that primary key will of course correspond to unique ID property, which could be, if it is a simple primary key, a single, or composite primary key, multiple fields. So all this is the correspondence, and actually reading the data and mapping it to Pojos will be all done by the Hibernate API. So this is like like to call it as a 10,000 feet view, aerial view, drone view, or whatever you call it. So now let us get you closer. So open more detailed diagram. These diagrams are all taken from Hibernate manual. So I have shared all those Hibernate manuals also, README, getting started and all that. Just a second. Where are these? Yeah, references. So here, first thing you do parallelly, please, extract. Don't extract it anywhere. I suggested to you long back. You have core Java API docs already. You got J2E docs. So if I were you, I will put this also in the same folder, Hibernate Java docs. Right click and say extract. And once you extract, let me open. You do it right away, guys. Because before I start, I just want to keep your Hibernate documentations around. So where are we? I mean, I have got API docs folder. So 2 API docs you're going to require today. JPA is, wait a second, I'll just close this. Here. So one documentation you're going to require is your J2E docs, because JPA is a J2E specification. So keep two things open, Java EE8 doc. So in that, you will see there is a package called as javax.jpa, sorry, javax.persistence, I meant. So this is nothing but javax.persistence is your JPA. So you'll require it. Have you extracted Hibernate docs so far? It's just a right click extract here. So after that, you will get a folder somewhere. Where is my Hibernate docs? Yeah. So you'll get Hibernate Java docs. And in Hibernate Java docs, you will find the index page again. So I want you to keep this, this version. Kunal, I think this was your version matching with, I guess. So these Hibernate Java docs is should be kept open, and soon we will reach Hibernate org.hibernate.session, session factory configuration, and you will understand more. So I want you to keep for the next 2-3 days JPA docs, which is a part of J2E, and Hibernate docs open. Has everyone kept it open? You understood my instructions? These are your go-to things. Without that, you cannot survive in Java. The way we do it, we always refer to Java docs. Okay, done. Next thing. So where were we? Yeah, we were in the diagrams. So yeah. So open Hibernate overview. So this diagram, I have taken it from the Hibernate docs. So you can observe. See, all the things, please don't expect 100% understanding. Even if you understand something like 10%, good enough to start. So let me start explaining. The topmost layer is your Java application. So can Hibernate be used in standalone applications, as in desktop-based applications? 100% yes. So today, tomorrow, we are going to write a tester. You remember good old tester, main-based application. And once I see that, okay, you are confident, you can manage things and all, then we are going to integrate Hibernate in a web application. So in short, does Hibernate give you support in standalone desktop-based applications as well as web applications? Answer is yes. Today, you ignore this persistent object. What it is, you'll understand later. So now just identify the layers. The bottommost layer is database. What is it Hibernate internally going to use to connect to database? Answer is in front of you. I'll repeat my question again. I said, what is it internally Hibernate going to use to connect to database? Let me see what you're saying. JDBC is a very right answer. Guys, HQL and all we will be writing. Don't misunderstand me. Can you not see? So let me ask you in a different manner, rephrase question. Are we still going to require that JDBC connector, MySQL connector in Hibernate applications? 100% yes. It is only thing is this whole JDBC is going to be abstracted. You know the meaning of abstraction. Hiding the details, hiding the complicated details. That is going to be abstracted by Hibernate, but JDBC is here to stay. Only thing is, as a Java developer, are you going to interact with JDBC API or with Hibernate API? J for JDBC, H for Hibernate. Of course, Hibernate API. Are you getting the feeling of this? See, first day, initial time I have to spend in making you comfortable. So this much. Now you can see that middle triangle, not triangle, what is it called? Rectangle. The green colored one is your Hibernate infrastructure, or you can say Hibernate framework, Hibernate architecture. So what are the essential components? Essential components are already mentioned here. And the heart of Hibernate, heart means what I mean is the basic interface, the main runtime interface you will be using in the next 3-4 days before I take you to JPA. When I take you to JPA, it will be something else. So that will be org.hibernate.session interface. Guys, first day is typically, spent in finding out the things. And why I'm spending so much time? Because this being a project technology, people can ask you anything on that. So you better be prepared. So coming back to the point, go to Hibernate docs, which is the main package you are going to use, org Hibernate. And in org.hibernate, you can look for you just click on org.hibernate and you will see again it is 90% full of interfaces. And the main interface where everything starts is org.hibernate.session. So add a mental note. When I say mental note, you might forget. So write it down somewhere. It will be good if you read. I'm going to take you further. We have got the whole day. So little bit of description about reading it, which will tell you the terms transient, persistent, detached and all that. will help you a lot. So make a mental note somewhere. At least read the first few paragraphs of Hibernate session. So let me ask you a question. When I say org.hibernate session, if you change the Hibernate by some other ORM implementer, some other JP implementer, such as let's say Kodo or Ibatis or Eclipse Link, will this be the same change or no change? In short, I'll repeat the question. I said, if you replace Hibernate vendor by some other JPA vendor, which one? Let's say Kodo, let's say Ibatis, let's say whatever, some other vendor. Will this org.hibernate.session change or no change? All wrong. Guys, apply your common sense. org.hibernate. So do you seriously expect to see the same packaging and same API in Kodo or Ibatis? Of course not. So this will change. That is the reason first I'm exposing to native Hibernate specific API. And when I take you to Spring, to be precisely Spring Boot or something, we won't use the org Hibernate session. We will use the super interface. So which is the super interface of it? It is Entity Manager. Look at the packaging and tell me, if I replace Hibernate by Kodo, Ibatis, JDO or whatever vendor, Entity Manager will change or no change? Are you understanding, guys? This answer is correct. Because JPA is all specification, J2 is specification, same across all the persistent providers. It is the Hibernate specific implementation which you are learning today. So once again, at the cost of boring you, org.hibernate.session, Hibernate specific or Hibernate independent? Is it going to be specific to Hibernate or across Hibernate specific? But when you climb that next step in form of a JPA later with Spring Boot, the entity manager is Hibernate specific or Hibernate independent. 100% Hibernate independent, that is JPA compliant. Understood what I said? 1% at least. JPA versus Hibernate, the whole discussion about. Okay, so the point is, this is your today, tomorrow. I mean, I'll tell you precisely. Till I take you to Spring Boot, we'll keep using the Hibernate native APIs. So focus on the diagram. Diagram says it much better, easier. So this is your Hibernate session. And again, there are lot of readmes all over the place. I will give you in writing. So start maintaining the list, because even I have too many things to do as far as your things are concerned. So readme Hibernate. Why Hibernate? 2 readmes I have mentioned. The third readme you're going to use today is there's something called as readme Hibernate or something. No, Hibernate help. Just a second. Yeah. So the third one you add to your reading homework is the Hibernate _help. Because why this? Because I have described the in detail what is that session, what is that session factory, what is that configuration. So this is all about native Hibernate documentation, which is really required. So read it, and I'll just give you a minute to read it. A break, minute's break. Okay, let us start reading it together. You may not have completed. I'm helping you. This session is a Hibernate specific interface. You call it as a native Hibernate API. It is the persistence manager. Session API gives you the persistence. And when I say Hibernate hides your JDBC, But on the other hand, I don't want to, I as a developer, I as a Hibernate developer, I don't want to get into too complex parts of Hibernate. So we will be using all these session APIs, which will hide the internal working. So session is the abstraction of Hibernate working. And in simple English, which you will understand, where are we going to see this CRUD operations? All session API. So I'll skip these 2 lines. I'll make you more comfortable. So you remember just in the morning half, we were trying to add the new tutorial. You remember what we did in the earlier half? If you were awake and alert and all. And it took us so much time. We had to open the connection, prepare the statement, that insert with question mark. Then we had to create a tutorial Pojo. And then we had to say execute update, check the update count, etc. What if I say, I'm trying to sell Hibernate to you naturally. What if I say, I just have to set up Hibernate. What it is will start in 5 minutes. And all I have to call is session.save. Of course, it has an argument. The argument is that Pojo. So what if I say session.save and tutorial reference, and all the hard work, all that, going to the database level is all abstracted by Hibernate. That is what I mean. So session API, we are going to use. We are not going to leave our object world. Let Hibernate talk to JDBC and manage the database. We will enjoy that from the object view. Second thing, if I want to say, suppose I want to get the customer details by a customer ID or something, you have a ready-made method, session.get. You can understand automatically. If I want to update, I don't have to do all those things which we did earlier. I just say session.update, session.delete. There is a session.create query to create HQL, JPQL, etc. So what the whole idea I'm trying to give, everything you won't understand. Don't ask me persistent detached. We are a little early for that. So the whole idea is we are going to sit in our Hibernate-based DAO layer and simply call the session API. And who is going to actually manage the synchronization? Synchronization means not thread safety. I do something in the Java world and correspondingly changes are made in the database. That's syncing up. Who will be in charge? Programmer or Hibernate? Answer is Hibernate. Yeah, JPA vendor Hibernate is equal to Hibernate session API and all that. So when I say so many things about session, you have to understand what that session is. So before I explain this, you tell me something. Just recently, we were in JDBC. So what is the starting point of JDBC? Getting a connection. Which was the method we were using to get the connection in JDBC? Tell me. The method, please. JDBC, you have to be in front, then only you can compare it with this. Oh. No. Open connection was a utils method. Come on. Driver manager.get connection. Very right. And then we had to say URL, username, password, etc. But when I say driver manager.get connection, you remember we had used the singleton pattern. So how many connections were there in our application? A single connection. Everyone remember, not remembers, understands that? And I told you right that time, this is not a scalable approach. Meaning, if you have actually 10 clients sending you 10 different requests, and if you are sharing one single database connection, soon your clients will start getting blocked because of that one connection not being available. So tell me, the single connection, in order to make it scalable, should be replaced by what? Answer is in front of you, connection pool. So here, you remember we discussed the thread pool with your executor framework. Who was managing the thread pool? And okay, first, small, simple questions. Who was managing the thread pool for us? Web container. Perfect. For what? For handling concurrency. And what was the story behind, or what was the need behind the thread pool? So that with the lesser number of threads, with the limited number of threads, you could service multiple client requests because of reusability. Reusability is the heart of pooling. Using the shared resources. Got me? So from there, you shift to connection pool. Guys, there is a lot of things spread over a lot of readmes, unfortunately. But I mean, fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know. But yeah, I had to separate it. So if you start reading readme Hibernate, you can look for pool. I'm discussing the whole concept of connection pool here. Okay, so why connection pooling? So acquiring a new connection is expensive. Keeping too many idle connections, again expensive. After creating a connection, preparing the expensive means what? Expensive means what expensive? Time-wise expensive. When I say expensive, what I mean is time consuming. So here onwards, we are going to use Hibernate supplied connection pool. So the moment I say connection pool, Hibernate supplied, when the Hibernate framework comes up, will it have a single connection meant for database connectivity, or will it have multiple connections? Single or multiple? Of course, multiple. And those connections will be kept in a pool-like structure, in a collection type structure. And whenever there is a demand, what demand? From the DAO layer, you say session.save, session.get, session.update, session.delete. So whenever there is a demand, will your Hibernate have to create a new database connection, or will it simply pull out the existing connection? Same story as the thread pool. Of course, it will pull out the existing connection. And how long that connection will be kept outside the pool? Only till your DAO CRED method is there. And the moment you say there is a session.close, I mean, session is a wrapper around this pulled out connection. So the moment your DAO API is over, when you say something like session.close, the pulled out, okay, let me ask you, will the connection actually be closed, or simply the pulled out database connection will return to the pool? You know the answer. There's no point in closing the connection because it is such an expensive time-wise thing. The connection returns to the pool so that the very same connection instance can be used to service some other DAO request, some other DAO requirement. So with the lesser number of connections, I'm not saying one would be too less in a multi-client scenario, but with the limited number of connections, I can handle the concurrency. Concurrency means I'm not talking about HTTP requests, guys. I'm talking about requirement of the DAO layer. So like I said, you'll get the feel of it over time. But okay, whatever. So Hibernate, whatever gives you is only the very basic implementation. So when I take you to Spring Boot has a very fast, I mean, they call it as lightning fast. This thing, the provider, the name is Hikari. You can Google for Hikari connection pool and you can find out more. So that is what we are going to use it when I finally take you to Spring Boot. So coming back to the point here, when I make a particular statement, things should be clear. So coming back to the statement, what is session? Session is nothing but your database connection. But tell me, is it a fixed database connection or is it a pulled out database connection? It is a pulled out database connection. There's nothing like a fixed connectivity now. It is all pooled connectivity. And why have I said it is a wrapper? Because are you going to use the methods of java.sql.connection, or are you going to use the advanced methods of session API? Of course, session API. Who wants to go to the database level when I have an intermediary, when I have a middle tier or a framework, right? So the point is, that is why I'm calling it as a thin wrapper around the pool connection. All this will be clearer today, tomorrow, over time. And the best news, or one of the advantages, is anytime you open a session, there is a method open session, there is a method called as get current session, etc. Just a minute, please. Sorry for that. I'm so sorry. So, yeah. So when you say, whenever you're going to open a session, that session means what? It is just going to pull out a database connection and wrap it in a Hibernate session so that we can enjoy this API. But the additional benefit, side benefit you get is all sessions are implicitly associated with level 1 cache. So you can't easily disable that. And that level 1 cache or that L1 cache is referred to as persistence environment, persistence context. Little bit heavyweight words. So just understand it in a simple manner. Anytime you open the session, are you going to get the are you going to get the inherent caching support? 100% yes. So this L1 cache, level 1 cache is also called as session level cache or persistence environment, which you get automatically. So here, this is what I have tried to say this. All this represents a wrapper and all that. Okay. So I hope I have succeeded in telling you the most API, the most important interface in Hibernate is a session. Got some idea about Hibernate session? Little bit, 1%, 2%. If other things, if you just ignore, at least important things represents the pool connection, gives you the API, and associated with L1 cache. Those are the highlights you should keep with. Next one. So if you agree that session is so important, you have to get the session. So now shift to the next one, next block. This all I'm discussing today is a Hibernate architecture. So here, now look at the next one. I started with session. I am going leftwards. So take a look at the word session factory. So forget this. Let me ask you. If I ask you a factory, what is factory? Factory is a provider. You have vehicle factory, you got a spare parts factory, you got a whatever food products factory, etc. So factory is a provider. The moment I say session factory, what must be the job of a session factory? Obviously, session factory is an interface. Its job is, whole and sole job is to provide the session objects. Okay, so read this. Again, you can open parallelly the Java docs and look for next interface session factory. It is a provider. It is the one who will give you those session objects. And to get you this thing connection, to give you the idea, that entire connection pool, you remember I talked about connection pool, that is going to be managed by the session factory. Okay, so go step by step. Again, I have written whole of it in Hibernate help document. So suppose, let me say, I like to say in numbers because that gives you the clarity. So suppose you have, let's say, you are, what do you say, you are performing, let's say, 10 different CRUD operations, through different clients. One is inserting a record, one is updating, one is fetching, one is deleting, etc. So if there are 10 different CRUD requirements, you will require 10 different session objects, because one session represents one work, one CRUD work. But how many session factory objects you are going to require? That answer is, how many connection pools you are going to require? Exactly one. Let me repeat the statement. How many session objects would be created? One per DAO request, one per CRUD request. But how many session factory, how many providers you'll require? I've given it completely. One single instance shared in entire application per database. Because you will see in a minute, session factory represents your database specific configuration. So suppose I'm talking in MySQL, only MySQL, you will have that session factory. But if you say, I want to have a distributed transaction which starts in MySQL and ends in Oracle or MongoDB or whatever, then you'll require those many session factories. Important words. Is it going to be what is it called? Mutable object or immutable? Session is going to be mutable. So thread unsafe, but the session factor is going to be immutable. The any immutability always brings you thread safety. But the side effect of it is when you create session factory object, at that point, the whole Hibernate framework will be bootstrapped. So naturally, it is a time consuming connection pool and all will be created. So it is a heavyweight process. So when should you do it? Already there is an answer. Should you do it right at the application deployment time, startup time, or should you do it after the client walks in? Easy question. Of course, at the application starting up time. Okay. So, and later you will understand that this session factory is associated with the level 2 cache, but this doesn't get automatically enabled. This has to be explicitly enabled. Okay. So here, what is it we are going to require in our Hibernate-based DAO layer? Session API. But who is the provider of a session? Give me the name of the provider of a session. Who's going to give you the sessions? Session factory. How many session objects would be created? You just give me single or multiple. And how many SF? SF means session factory objects will be there. Give me both. Session, one per request, as in one per data access request, multiples, and the session factory, a singleton. Everything in detail mentioned here. So now we are traversing back. So one more level and we are ready to code. So I hope you understood at least something, 1%, 2%. For session, you have to create a singleton, immutable, inherently thread safe session factory object. So okay, let me say this. So for creating a session factory, who is the provider of a session factory? You know, the Hibernate configuration object. So in exactly 2 minutes, we are going to create the instance of, there is a org.hibernate.cfg, a base, sub package. You will see a configuration class, I'll show you. And from that configuration, there is a method called as build session factory. So we'll be building a session factory just exactly once. And whenever we require, we will obtain the session objects from that. And those methods are, today looking at time, we'll just use one method, open session. And then I'll tell you the other method, get current session, etc. And we'll go ahead. So understand the step-by-step approach. So what is the first instance we are going to create? Configuration. From configuration, what is it we are going to build? Session factory. Ragini, yes, well summarized. And from session factory, as on demand basis, as per demand basis, we are going to say session factory.open session to get the session object. Got some idea about 3 blocks in this architecture? And then when I take you further, you will see you have to wrap all the Hibernate interaction between a transaction. Then we'll talk about query objects, criterias, and whatnot. Okay, so enough of introduction for the basics. Again, I've written all of it, and let's complement it by some hands-on. So again, I'm making a statement here. What is it that was? Yeah, even if it is unfortunately dependencies are still not downloaded and you are still suffering issues, suffering from issues, Maven related, still continue with me with the steps. We are anyway going to help you other than network wise, internet wise, we can't help you. So now we are again back to core Java environment. So switch the, change the perspective to Java and follow all the steps in the lab sequence. So what we had done is, we had finished this much. Change the perspective to Java. Yes or no? Have you created the Maven project, or at least have you imported my supplied project Dana in Hibernate? Yes or no? And have you added some dependencies and those build tags in the form.xml? So in short, first 2-3 steps. Done? Okay. So now I'll give you analogy so you will be understanding it clearly. Web container is not a magician. So which was that deployment descriptor file which was generated for our web container? What was that deployment descriptor? Web.xml. Likewise, Hibernate instructions, the Hibernate configuration file, the name is hibernate.cfg.xml. Guys, apply your common sense. Anywhere you see Hibernate, it is Hibernate specific to be replaced by a property file later when I take you to Spring Boot. So there are whole instructions. Okay, today it is in day 9 data. Okay, I mean, they can change, but at least look for, I'll tell you, look for, we are running late little one day, no problem. So go to configuration file. Can you see the first one? Hibernate cfg.xml, copy paste, control C. Found it? Keep responding. Okay, so here. So, and paste it under, let me say this. You can technically paste it under src main Java because finally src main Java, src main resources are going to be deployed under the runtime class path. But you tell me, when you say src main Java, should you write only Java sources there, or can you mix up this thing also, XML configuration file? Mix up or separation? Separation. So when you open the project, I mean, when you create a Maven project, it gives you a separate folder, src main resources, control V, I mean, paste it under that. But in a minute, always observe things. So if you say right click, properties, and this is not a web application, so don't look for deployment, this thing and all. But if you say Java build path, it's not giving you. Is it giving you anything? I just, I like to confirm. I'll always like to show you things like that. Anyway, so builders may no. Anyway, I'll tell you what I wanted to. I'll of course do it, but in a web application, it is not giving me any information that whatever you deploy under, deploy means whatever you keep under src main Java, src main resources is going to be kept under the build folder. I mean, runtime class path. So enough time set. Open that. And here, start looking at the configuration file. So this is not your, okay, let me not say too many things. You tell me what is the root tag here? Hibernate configuration. This is, from this we are going to create your org.hibernate.cfg configuration object. What is the child tag here? Session factory. So take a look at full session factory tag and tell me database specific or database independent. Easy questions I'm asking you. What is it? Is it going to be specific to database or database independent? Of course, database specific. Can you not see? It is all MySQL specific. So in the earlier versions of JDBC driver, we had to give this driver class, com MySQL CJ JDBC driver. Now you don't require. But now quickly edit. This is your this thing, database password, and this is your database username. Anyone? Where we used to add all of this in our JDBC days? Where you used to add this information?
Util.
In the DB utils, exactly. Or you remember one day I showed you the database independent. That time you are adding it in a web.xml. So now you are adding it in a Hibernate configuration XML file. So have you edited username and password? Here also change. This is some other training thing. So change the database name to whatever we are using, DAC22, JDBC, MySQL, localhost 3306 and all that. Use SSL, ampersand, allow public key. Okay, looks fine. Done the changes? So I hope you understand that auto commit is basically for starting a transaction. I'll talk about transactions and all little later when we reach the down here. So URL looks okay. So see, DB URL, database username and database password, all edited. Even though if the rest of the project is not working, keep doing all these things with me. Otherwise, there will be too much of a pile up. Now, I can't explain this, too early for that. Everyone can understand this. Who is going to create database connection pool and when? Who and when? And what size? All W questions. Who is going to create automatically this database connection pool? Hibernate framework. when you create the object of the session factory, which we will do in a minute, and then I'll give you 10 minutes break. Deployment time, yes, Prashant, you're absolutely right. Hibernate will create it. At the application deployment time is a loose term here. So let us be specific. When you create a session factory object from that configuration, build session factory, at that time it will be created. And I've just given some number. 10 is a huge number for a locally hosted application. In practice, in production environment, you can increase it more. Next ones. Here, understand these two properties. These two properties are for debugging. In the first few hours of Hibernate, you would definitely like to confirm that when I say session.save, is it really the insert query getting fired? Or when I say session.get, is the select query getting fired, etc. So show SQL, format SQL will show you all those queries generated on the console. And okay, sorry, good, I saw. I mean, guys, this was from the earlier this. Please get rid of it. Remove. We have not written a single POJO. We will end up writing a POJO. Currently, we don't have it. Please delete the mapping entry. This is that ORM, object to relational mapping. We will go there shortly. Have you removed? Otherwise, everything will fail. Yeah, I was about to explain this most important, one of the important properties. So what does HBM stand for? Hibernate mapping to your DDL. So Hibernate mapping to data definition, automatic. There are various values of this property, create, validate, drop and create, update, none, etc. So listen to this carefully. When you use the value of the property as update, and when we write the POJO after the break and all that, and so what will Hibernate check? Hibernate is your ORM implementer, ORM tool. So it will check, is there a table corresponding to POJO? We are not going to have a table. So if the table doesn't exist, think sensibly. Do you think it will throw the exception, or do you think it will automatically create the table for your POJO? Of course, it is going to create the table for your POJO. Got it? But now when you run it for the next time, we will first check. I always show it in steps. So after that step 1 is done, and next time you run it again, and suppose you have got already data inserted, do you want to drop and create the tables all over, or do you want to continue with the same table now? Of course, you want to continue, and that is your property update. Okay, so other values, other discussion later. So has everyone got this Hibernate CFG XML? So now we are going to write in next 2 minutes, okay, 5 minutes, the bootstrapping. Bootstrapping means we want to check whether that session factory, whether that Hibernate configuration, object version of this, whether the session factory is all properly, up and running, which is what is nothing but called as bootstrapping of Hibernate. So I think I mentioned it in the steps. So here. So now, what is it we used to create in our what? JDBC? DB utils. What was the job of the DB utils? To give you singleton connection instance. Are we working in a single copy of connection or connection pool? In Hibernate, CP, okay, CP is connection pool now. Of course, a connection pool, but that connection pool will be created along with the session factory. So in the next minute, we are going to write a Hibernate utils class, which has full Hibernate API, configuration, session factory, etc., which will create that singleton instance of the session factory. And then we will write in a minute, the tester, and we'll see whether the Hibernate framework is up and running. And then we'll take a 10 minutes break. So do it with me if you want. So close everything. Where should I write this Hibernate utils class? Under SRC main Java or SRC main resources? Which folder? Of course, SRC main Java. Dumb question. So here, click on class. Same package name, just to make you comfortable. And here we are calling it as Hibernate utils. You can call it as my utils, your utils, anything. Session factory utils, anything. typically people end up calling Hibernate utils. Got it? Which are the packages you are going to use for this? Of course, they will get auto imported, but it's good to know. So the main package you are going to use is org.hibernate. If it is not completed, that means there's some problem with your Maven jars and the dependencies are not certain. The next one you are going to require is org.hibernate.cfg. That configuration class is from here. So you can say either only configuration or this. So this configuration class, currently we have not used, so we will use it. Now, looking at time, I'll go a little faster. So how many instances of session factory you want to create? Single or multiple? How many session factories you require? A single one per entire application, but per database. And currently we are not currently, whole J2E. I'm not showing you multiple databases. I'm just showing you one database. Later, if anyone plans to take MongoDB and all, write to me separately. I'll send you my template project, which has Spring Boot, MongoDB, Spring Data JPA, everything. But currently we are using this thing. What is it called? MySQL. So here, let's declare a session factory. The moment it is one single requirement, make it static. And here, session factory. You can read. The main contract here is creation of sessions, etc. It has single connection. You can read the help later. And let me call it as factory. It's a provider of Hibernate session objects. So currently, what will be the value of this session factory? Null or not null? 100% null. So tell me from your core Java, is there anything in a class which gets called exactly once? I had mentioned this long time back. Wrong answer, guys. If you say constructor, I can always call the constructor multiple times to create multiple objects. Yes, static initializer block. So if you refer to our day 2, day 3, I don't remember, in core Java, when I discussed the static keyword, I had told you, we will use this static initializer block to call that one-time code. And what is that one-time code I want is the session factory creation. So listen to the next statement. Singleton is a famous design pattern, not in Java, all over industry, be it .NET, be it JavaScript, be it whatever. And one of the ways of achieving singleton is a static initializer block. Are you understanding? Why? Because singleton means what? One instance. And static initializer block gets called exactly once. So if I create the session factory instance from inside the static initializer block, maximum how many instances would be created? One or multiple? Exactly one. So this is called as the eager pattern. What I had shown you in JDBC, where I was writing it as a method, open connection and all, that is called as a lazy singleton pattern. This is called as the eager singleton pattern. I'm going to give you a write-up on all of that. So add the static initializer block. And here, the whole idea is to write a comment here, create singleton. One singleton, immutable, inherently. The moment I say immutable, it is inherently thread safe, session factory instance. So first I'll show you the API and we'll do it. So open the Hibernate docs and look for org Hibernate configuration, CFG. org.hibernate.cfg. And in that, you have a class called as configuration. I'm explaining the API, which we will use in the next minute. Okay. So here represents one approach for bootstrapping. So this is the approach we are going to use. It is an extremely easy approach. So the first one is what? First step is we are going to create the default. We are going to use the default constructor. So this constructor we will use to instantiate the configuration. But if you use the default constructor, it won't load all those entries. When I say entry, you know, key and a value pair. Everything is in maps in J2E. See this. If you open this Hibernate configuration file, can you see it is nothing but key and a value pair? It's a property file. So the key is nothing but the name of the property and the value is nothing but the value here. So if you create the configuration instance using a default constructor, it creates an empty instance. So there is a method called as configure. The name of the method itself is configure. This, don't use the deprecated one. Here, read. So it will populate. When you say new configuration.configure, it is going to read all those entries, mappings, properties in that Hibernate CFG XML, which I hope you have corrected as per your own username password. And you will see it supports so beautifully method chaining. It returns you the configuration instance itself. So what will configure method return? Populated configuration object or the empty one? Only one answer. What are others doing? Of course, populated. If you use a default constructor, only empty. But I'm going to say new configuration.configure. After this, of course, populated. And then finally, there's a method called as build session factory. Not this one. This is a overloaded one. Okay. So there is a method called as build session factory, which will create this singleton immutable session factory instance using all these properties. Okay, so let's do that in one line. It has method chaining approach. So write the left hand side as factory is equal to, what is it you are going to, what is the source of, who is the provider of the session factory? Configuration object. So create the configuration. Pay attention, imported from, because there are other sources, imported from org Hibernate CFG configuration dot, but this gives you the empty one. So don't directly say build session factory, all you'll get is an empty one. So first configure it, returns you the populated configuration instance, and then say build session factory. So this session factory, is it going to have a one single fixed database connection, or is it going to really open that connection pool? Connection pool or a single connection? CP, you can say CP. CP is not client pool. Here is a connection pool. Got it? Now, if you take a cursor here, it includes in the throws clause Hibernate exception. But why there is no compiler error? Is Hibernate exception checked exception or unchecked exception? Unchecked. So is it compulsory to handle it? Is Java compiler forcing you to handle it? No. So if you want, you can always wrap it in try catch block. I'm keeping your code less. But since it is private, let us add a getter. Add means get, generate. Source, getter. And simply add. Don't say setter because we have already created the instance. So I have a small question. First do this and I'll ask you a small question. If any DAO layer, your DAO layer is going to use this. So suppose if I call this Hibernate utils.get factory method, let's say 100 times. Is it going to give you the same singleton instance of the session factory or 100 different instances? 100 different instances. Hello, I'm calling this method. So the correct answer is one same instance. And when will that same instance, one single instance created? At the class loading time or later? Answer is class loading time. So whenever you are referring to this Hibernate utils.get factory for the first time, the class will be loaded in the method area. And what gets called along with the class loading time? Static initializer block. So how many times? Okay, why don't you? Somebody said 100. So I have to correct him or her. So please add a SOP in static initializer block. Tell me guys, how many times you are going to see this line? One time or multiple times? Of course, single time. And anytime you call after that get factory, let's say 10,000 times, it is going to return you the same singleton instance. So this is how we have achieved singletoning of session factory. Finish this. Shall I send you this? I don't think you require because I think I was pretty slow, but still. SRC, main, Java, utils, Hibernate utils. I'll send you Hibernate utils. Now, literally in a minute, seriously minute, not my minute, actual minute. So let's write a tester. And that tester will tell you, is your Hibernate connection, configuration correct? This is your bootstrapping. Is your Hibernate framework up and running? So go to what? SRC main Java. If I had written it as a web application, you would be required to write a context listener and so many things. Here, nothing, a good old tester. So SRC main Java, click on a class. This is like a test script. So of course, I can show you the test cases. Over time, I'll show you how to write the unit test cases. So currently nothing, and test Hibernate, or you can say, yeah, I mean, I was going to say test bootstrapping of Hibernate. Test Hibernate is sufficient. And here, so it is your good old tester. Right now, you don't require any scanner and all. We will require all of that, but over time. So now the other statement is session factory is auto-closable. So the moment I say it is auto-closable, you know, I can open it in a try with resources, just add a catch-all. So in case there are any exceptions, you know, you can find it out. Compiler doesn't force us, but still we are adding. And here, what is it I'm going to use is, please, I will just invoke that session factory. Be careful. When you say control space, don't take it from com MySQL CJ. That is MySQL specific. Please use all Hibernate APIs. So org.hibernate. And here, oh, I did not use the import static. Let's use your import static. Utils, Hibernate utils, get factory. And here you say get factory. And in case there are no mistakes, no errors, no configuration mistakes and all, I'll just add. This is equivalent to our DB utils get connection. I hope you are relating to it. So all I'm saying is Hibernate bootstrap or Hibernate framework up and running. And here, as always, I like to show this session factory is an interface. Interfaces cannot be instantiated. So in that Hibernate core jar, there are implementations. So you'll see soon, like earlier, last Monday, I guess, you saw connection implementation. Today you'll see session factory implementation. So guys, don't run it. First, let me run it. Let me show you what to see in your 10 minutes break, and then you run it. Give me a minute. This is not a web application. So directly you can say run. Run means run this application. Run main-based application. Don't run XML file. So here it is telling me run test Hibernate. Watch the console. As always, console is full of stories. So it has called static initializer block. The Hibernate core version, the jar version is Kunal. You can see 5.4.18. It has picked up other jars, so let's not worry about it. Is it using a singleton connection or is it using a connection pool? It is using a connection pool. And Hibernate very honestly tells you, don't use it for production. We'll tell him that we are anyway going to use Spring Boot Hikari, not to worry. And here you will see all this DB URL, username, password, everything. So Hibernate, in my case at least, has successfully created the connection pool with max size of 10 and minimum connection core pool size of 1. It is using something called as database dialect, which I'll explain after your break, MySQL database dialect. And most importantly, there's a spelling mistake. Anyway, so you can see that session factory up and running, which represents internally the connection pool. And are we keeping the resources open or is it getting cleaned up? Of course, it is getting cleaned up. The moment you say you are leaving from session factory, session factory dot close, it automatically cleans up the connection pool and then terminates the application. Run it, please, and tell me. Got the similar output? Is it working? Please run it. And those things you have to observe. Okay, so let's have it's a high time we take a break. I know it's a wrong time to take a break, but still, let me give you a breather. 10 minutes break and we'll resume. Exception, all these help. Yogesh, try to see what exception you are getting. Do a little bit. You are a Java developer. So try to figure it out. Otherwise, we are there in the labs to help you. Okay. So help Yogesh, guys. So 10 minutes break and we'll resume. Have a yes. I remember some of you were saying succeeded. Some of your Yogesh, I guess, was getting an exception. You figured it out or not yet? The exception part? It's working? Okay, great. So like I said, we will help you. Only one thing where we can't help you in the lab is you have to download the dependencies on your own. So that part is the only thing. Rest all we can help you with. Okay, so coming back to the point, I realize I have a spelling mistake here. Looks so weird. So this is the first step in Hibernate. Just to confirm, or rather, when this step is finished, you get a confidence. You have to understand that all your database configuration and creation of a Hibernate configuration, and most importantly, the session factory is all fine. And that also tells you that the connection pool has been created here. Whenever you say this, I was asking you things and people were not, some of you were giving me wrong answers. So suppose I call this get factory method couple of times. Is it going to return you the same session factory or multiple? And answer is 100% the same, because you can run this and you can check. Don't waste your time too much. The static initializer block is called exactly once. So you'll see in static initializer block exactly once. So all of them are returning the same shared session factory instance. So we've already achieved the singleton using using static initializer block. So I'm just keeping it. Later you can uncomment and confirm. Now let me take you to the step 2. Step 1 was confirming a bootstrapping. Basically, it is called as bootstrapping of Hibernate framework. Now, we have tested all this. So session factory is created and Hibernate is booted correctly. So bootstrapping of Hibernate framework done. So now tell me, what are the layers? Don't answer me from web application. First 2 days we spent in JDBC in core Java. So what were the layers between your tester and a database? Tester was calling the DAO layer method. DAO layer was using dbutils. I'm talking in JDBC. And then it was using the POJOs. And then it was connecting to the database. So now, what are going to be the layers? Exactly same. But the JDBC based DAO layer will be replaced by what? Your Hibernate based DAO layer, where you will start using all this Hibernate session API and the POJO, which we had to manage. We had to create the POJO instance and we had to map it to the database. Everything will be done by Hibernate. So the next step, which I plan to finish before the lunch break, is let us create a POJO. And of course, Hibernate is not a magician. So I'll talk about various JP annotations. All this will be covered. And then we will see when I write a POJO and add something called as a mapping entry, is, as per the Hibernate's promise, is it creating the table? And in lab, I'm just telling you what to expect in the lab because some people start logging off little later. So in the lab, of course, I will not trouble you. I'll not even join the lab initially. So later we'll try to fix whatever errors you are still facing other than internet issues. Downloading the dependencies is something you have to manage. And then we will revise it quickly, the Hibernate part of it. And then we are going to, I don't think we'll start with DAO layer in last whatever 20 minutes just. So we will continue with little bit of DAO layer. I'll give you some instructions and I'll get the things done. So that is a lab session. So now I'll suggest you have this lab sequence. We are going to create a user Pojo and we'll see whether the table gets automatically created by Hibernate. So what I'm suggesting is, just a second, I'll just swap something. Password and confirm password, they should be like next to each other. So this I'm keeping it here. So we are going to create a user Pojo. I've given you the data members so that you will not make mistake and our code will be consistent. So can you just pick up this and let's create your first Hibernate managed Pojo. So where should I create the Pojo class? Of course, in src main Java, create a class, give the package name as Pojos, which are actually nothing but database entities, representing database entity. And let's have a user Pojo there. And just keep those attributes, data members in front of you so that we will start working on it. So the first step is create an ordinary Pojo as you are used to. And then we will give some instructions to Hibernate. Again, there are two ways to provide the instructions, like exactly like web container, XML or annotations. Here we are going to use throughout the annotation approach. Meaning, other than Hibernate CFG XML, this one, Girish, I don't have to send you the command. What are you talking about? Here, open that lab sequence. I just copied it from here. So that lab sequence is shared in the day 9 help. Okay, so keep it. Somebody already helped you, but focus, it is already shared. So anyway, what I was saying, it broke my thought. Yeah, so first we will create an ordinary Pojo and then we will apply annotations. So start working on it. A small pause. When I say user ID, we are going to use it. We are going to map it. How? With annotations to the table's primary key. So there is a rule which I'll explain later. Hibernate says whatever is the primary key, internally it uses serialization technique for mapping it with the underlying database. So for serialization and deserialization to occur, which is the interface which has to be implemented? Serializable. You remember java.io.serializable. So suggestion is, if instead of creating int or long as a primitive types, use the wrappers. So which is the wrapper class for int? Integer. Check it out later from core Java docs. Integer is a serializable. So user ID. And then the rest of the thing is name. So string name. All I'm doing is, I already supplied it to you. Then the next is email. After completing this, I'll send you the Pojo, unannotated Pojo first, the password. Later, we are going to integrate it in our web application, don't worry. Then there is a confirm password. And then the role. So user has a role, right? So we'll create it as an enum. Let's say user role, something. The whole idea is to show you the maximum JP annotations right in the beginning. And a user, if user wants to register to my website, registration amount, he or she has to pay. And till we were in JDBC, we had to use java.sql.date. Now you can use java.sql.date also, java.util.date also, but the latest API is Java 8 API. So we will use your local date here. In your projects, if you want time, you can use local time. If you want entire timestamp, you can use local date time as well. So local date and registration date. If you recall, I have not yet shown you. I asked you from database this also. You have not done any binary large object blob handling, saving the images in the database and retrieving. I will show you maybe tomorrow, not maybe tomorrow. I mean, so here I'm going to show you that how to store the images. Images as in some binary content. So add the data type as binary type, binary array. And since I'm going to show the saving of images, calling it as image. So that is why I given this in lab sequence. Now, next. So as per the POJO specification, Hibernate does need a default constructor. And here, add a SOP and you will see it will be automatically called by your this thing. What is it? Hibernate. And here, oh, sorry, I have not created this. So here you can say control 1 and let's create a enum. Create enum role. And here, I hope everyone remembers the enum and all that. So let me start with the simple 2 roles, whatever our CMS system is, customer and what was it? Admin. You can add manager, supervisor, any additional roles or whatever, moderator as per your projects. So did this? Yeah. Now you will see over time, we are going to accept whenever I want to register a user, I want to insert a record. So everything else but the user ID we will supply because that will be Hibernate generated. So now generate a constructor which we will use not now but in the lab session, which has all the arguments except user ID. Let me give me a minute. Name, email, password, confirm password, yes. And yeah, today we are not handling binary. So exclude the image. I'll explain why I excluded. User ID will be generated with the help of Hibernate database, auto increment basis. And image handling we are not doing today. That we will do tomorrow. But rest all select and generate. And then Hibernate is going to use the getters and setters to read the data, write the data and all that. So generate all of them. I said generate all getters, setters, do not exclude anything. This is a POJO where we generate all. So say select all, generate. And for easy quick debugging, give the toString. But blindly never work. So I want user ID and all that, but image is just a raw binary array. So what is it you are going to see in that image? Currently there is nothing. So only exclude image part, keep rest of the things for the quick debugging practice. So I think I'm done with the basic POJO. Let me send you one. And I'm sending you the enum also. I don't think you should require my help in enum. We have written enum so many times. I'll wait here till you ask me to continue. So far it is a very ordinary basic POJO which you are already used to. Only thing is I have just thought of all the possible, not all exactly, but yeah, some of the possible data members so that you will have some clarity right on the first day. You let me know when to continue. Some of you, Kritika is saying yes. I'll just wait for a couple of more ads. Okay, so this was nothing new. This you are used to generating a POJO. But now, Hibernate not being a magician, you have to give the instructions to the Hibernate, indicating what? I mean, in giving the instructions. So have I given the instructions here? No. So there are a lot of things. Anyway, so which readme to read, I'll tell you later. Looking at time, let me directly explain the annotation and supply. So there are only 2 mandatory annotations, 2 compulsory annotations, required annotations, 2 for the Hibernate to manage your Pojo, to manage the ORM. So let us start with the mandatory annotations, and optional ones will follow later. So here, which is the package which has the annotations? There are two packages. One is org.hibernate.annotation package, and one is javax.persistence package. So listen to my next question. If you import the annotations from org.hibernate.annotation, Hibernate specific or Hibernate independent? Easy question. Hibernate specific. So as much as possible, we will use all JP annotations, so that tomorrow, even if you change the persistence partner, persistence provider from Hibernate to Kodo to iBatters, not even a single word will change. Okay, so import, which is the JPA package you have in J2E, javax.persistence. So all JPA annotations we are going to pick up. So which are the two compulsory annotations we will require, or you will require to for the Hibernate to manage it? The first one is class level annotation @entity. So mark it as you can take the cursor here and you see specifies that the class is an entity, means this is what is going to correspond to your database entity, database table. So mandatory or optional? 100% mandatory. Without that, ORM will not work. Without that, Hibernate will not even know that whatever follows is an entity. Quick analogy. How do you tell web container that whatever follows is a servlet? Web servlet annotation or XML. So here it is the annotation approach. So same. So this is your first one. Which is the next mandatory annotation? Answer is, you have to see Hibernate. Again, my favorite statement. Hibernate is not a magician. So how will it know from these set of properties which is the one which corresponds to primary key? So you have to tell Hibernate that out of these, this is to be mapped as primary key. So which is going to be primary key? In our case, a user ID. It can be later anything, but typically I'll give you the project tips later. So here another annotation. So guys, this annotation you can either provide at a field level, which I'm going to show you, or it can be property level. So when I say property level, it is above the getter. Listen to the statement carefully. You can add, there is an annotation @ID, either at a field level or at a property level, which is above getter. You will never add it over setter, because setter's return type is void. Hibernate doesn't understand anything from the setter. So I'm going to show you the field level annotations. So add the annotation @ID, and just take a cursor here and it will tell you specifies the primary key of the entity. So you can add mandatory or optional. 100% mandatory. Your ORM will not work. And what does it imply? Which constraint it will add in the database table? It will add the primary key constraint. We are done. Means I'm not stopping here, unfortunately. But as far as basic means, mandatory annotations are concerned, these are the only two ones. Finished entity, finished ID, completed. Okay. So now some additional annotations, and we'll start. So here you can apply your common sense all the time. If you add only this annotation @entity @ID, guess smartly. Okay, before I ask you to guess smartly, the automatic table generation is going to be done by Hibernate. But tell me, if I write only this, what will be the table name which Hibernate will create? It's an easy one. Of course, the Pojo name, user. So if you are happy with it, don't do. But generally, we would like to add the table name. So which is the next? Now whatever annotations I'm giving are all optional. It's a popular question. Which are the two mandatory annotations for the Hibernate @entity @ID over? But these are what do you say? Optional but recommended ones. So specifies the primary table. The secondary table and all later. And if you see here, there is a one property called as name, and here you can supply the name as, let's say, users table, something. Give the name of the table which doesn't exist. You want to see the new table created. So here I'm saying show tables. And we have that users table, but I don't have the users underscore table. In short, give the new name. Done. I'm not writing everywhere, but other than entity ID, all, what is it called as optional. Finish that table. Okay, let's go a little faster, you know, in the time and all that. If you specify at ID, 100% primary key constant will be added. But what will be the this thing? Okay, so if you add only at ID, this is fine. But who will have to supply the ID value? Will it be automatically generated or will it have to be user supplied? Answer is user supplied. Means you will have to, whenever you are registering a customer, you will have to set the customer ID, which is so not required. So is there any way to generate the IDs automatically? Answer is yes. And the annotation is @generated value. So before I log in, please, I have somewhere written all this. I'll tell you the name. I don't remember the name of the ID. So @generated value, best is, you know, just take the cursor here and you will read. Provides for the specification of generation strategies for primary key. And there are literally various strategies. But if you are using MySQL supports auto increment. So here, start with the strategy. If you don't supply the strategy, the default value of the strategy, it's an enum internally, say control space. This is the automatic. So it will change as per the database. But what I have observed, not I, generally programmers have observed is, if you use the identity column, this is what represents your what is that, auto increment, and works perfectly with MySQL. So choose the identity generator, add. So this implies, what it implies is this thing, auto increment. If you don't do that, it will use some database table, you know, Hibernate sequence. The name of the table it uses is Hibernate sequence, and start generating IDs from there. But it's not a optimized technique. So for MySQL, I will always suggest use identity generator. Next question. So this tells you primary key, this adds your auto increment. Next obvious question. If I write this much only, the property will map to the column. So what will be the column name? Obviously, what will be the name of the column? User ID, but it is such a Java style name. So if you want to change the column name, the annotation is @column, and you can change so many things in that. So here, being the first Pojo, let me just give you name. And here, see, whenever naming database columns, use database strategies, which is underscore separated, user underscore ID. So tell me, what is user ID? Pojo property name, Pojo field name, and what is going to be the corresponding column name? User underscore ID. Understood so far? I'll take whole recap, whole revision in lab session. Look, currently I don't want to like waste your, delay your break. Okay, next one. So observe. The moment you have a string as a type, the corresponding column type will be 100% varchar. And I'm okay with the column name as name. But the default size of varchar is 255. So if your names are not going to be customer names, admin name is not going to be 255 character long, can I curtail it? Can I reduce it? Answer is yes. Column. And here there is an attribute called as length. What is the default value? See this, it is only applicable to string. The default value is 255. Do I want to reduce it? Definitely. Length is equal to, let's say, 30. Whatever size. You decide what is the max varchar size. So here the constraint will be varchar size 230. Making sense? Understanding the mapping instructions? It's a annotations is the, pretty straightforward annotations. Next one. So I don't want to this where the column is the unique key. I want to give that. So here you say unique is equal to true. And which will be the additional constraint it will add? It will add the unique constraint to this. With couple of annotations, you can dictate Hibernate what kind of a table you want. And as an exam objective, talk to your seniors. Yeah. So here, talk to your this thing. Just hold on for some minute. Or otherwise, you have a recording. Anytime you feel super hungry, you can always. Anyway, so coming back to the point, I was saying something, right? So if you talk to you, I'm sure you have network with your seniors and all that. Maximum amount of questions, typically in J2E and all, are based on annotations. They definitely ask you that if this is the annotation, what is the implication? What is the meaning? So accordingly, I'll prepare. So continue. So I'm saying password length can be 20. Later, I can have the regex regular expression and can explain exactly. Over time, I'll show you. So I'm okay. Unique password, of course not. So this is fine. Varchar 20 is the constraint I have added. No unique constraint. Now, think and answer. Do you want in your database table a column such as password as well as confirm password? Do you want two columns? Of course not. Everyone understand what I'm saying? So tell me, which was the keyword you learned in core Java to skip a particular field from serialization? Transient. Here exactly the annotation exists. So which is the annotation to tell Hibernate that this field is not to be applied in the ORM persistence? The name of the annotation is @transient. See, this specifies that a property or a field. Property means getter level annotation. Field means field level annotation. So here it is @transient annotation. Skip from persistence. So which column will be created and which one will not be created? Of course, the name of the column here, I'm not configured the name. So password column, but confirm password will not be appearing. Confirm password is only for your validation, whether the password and confirm password is matching at all. Okay, so that way. Now, next one. What is the data type of a role? We are coming to the end of it. So just bear with me for 2-3 minutes. The data type is a enum. So everyone remembers enum has a name. Okay, here. Any enum, we did it in core Java. It has a constant name such as customer admin. Plus it has an ordinal position, which is 0 here, 1 here. Okay. So if you don't add the additional annotation, what will be the database column type? Ordinal. Ordinal means int. So if you are happy with the position 0, 1 and all that, you don't have to give annotation. But generally, you need the constant names. You need the role name to appear, or you need whatever that customer type to appear. So the annotation is @enumerated. And this has the type. So if you say control space, the default type is ordinal. Change it to string. So now tell me, the moment you do this, what will be the corresponding column type in the database? Varchar or int? Of course, it will be varchar. And that will imply the enum constant name. Okay. So this is what is enum type.string. But of course, when you give this, the name of the column will be user role. So if you want to edit that, you can give a name. So suppose I want the name as role, maybe just a role, and I don't want the length as 255. Varchar default size is 255. So you can say length equal to 20 or any this admin customer 10 also will suffice. So understand? I'll repeat everything. Don't worry. This thing. So here, if you don't specify, the default type will be ordinal position. In short, in type. So if you are happy with that, don't add this annotation. But we don't want it. I want the varchar, this thing, constant name to appear. And here is for telling the I don't want the column name as user. I want it suppose as role and length as 20. Next one. This I think you don't have, I don't have to explain. This doesn't have the type double, doesn't have a length. So all I'm editing here is the database type, style this reg amount. If you are wondering, so many annotations for so many tables in our project for so many pojos, you are thinking wrong. Let me take you to Spring Boot Spring Data JPA. This naming convention is followed automatically. Means what? Whenever you use the Java style name, wait for Spring Data JPA framework to be discussed. It will automatically convert it into database style name. So you're going to see a lot of code reduction over time. So I'm okay here. And yeah, I'll just change the column. This name as, again, I don't want the Java style name. So let me have an underscore and all that. So here, if you have the local date, what will be the default column type? So go back to core Java and tell me, when I say local date, what does it represent? Date, time, or both? It is only representing date. So default column is not going to be varchar. How can it be varchar? Don't you know date, time, and date time things? So it is automatically date. But if you use java.util.date, then there are some annotations at the rate temporal and all those things. I'll take it some other time. Next one, the last one. And we're just going to check the table and that's it. So what is it? Yeah. So if you have the binary byte array, what is the corresponding default column type your Hibernate will create is a blob. Blob stands for binary large object. Google, because I mean, I'm not spending time in explaining what is blob. But the size of the blob generally it uses for MySQL is medium blob. And then you have the restriction on the file size. So there is an additional annotation. If you say @lob stands for large object. And the type of the column it generates is, I think, huge blob or long blob or something. I forgot. So the column type it generates is, I think, long blob. We'll check. And I'll give you somewhere, I have written somewhere documentation. Long blob means, I think it is up to 4 GB file sizes can be stored. Of course, there are flags in MySQL to tweak, but the point is, it will definitely create a sufficiently it will allow you to save this. When I come to blob handling tomorrow, saving images, retrieving images, I'll talk more. So just have a, let me send you, I think we have done all the whatever annotations I wanted to share. Let me send you this Pojo. I hope I have not messed up in something. So again, I'm sending you now the annotated Pojo, but this is not a only thing. Last step, don't worry. You have to tell Hibernate that this is the Pojo you have to map. In simple English, you have to add the mapping entry. So open your Hibernate CFG XML, last instruction, and here add the mapping entry to supply your object to relational mapping. The name of the property itself is mapping. And here there is an attribute called as class. What is it? JSP colon use bean ID class and also that class. But here it has to be fully qualified Pojo class name. So don't make mistake in the last minute. So I think it is Pojos, right? Pojos.user. So if you end up having, let's say 10 Pojos for 10 tables or whatever, you will have to add all these entries. All of this will drastically reduce the moment you enter Spring Boot. So I hope you have edited your database settings and all you have added is a mapping entry. Done? Okay. Now, what we are going to run is, give me a minute. Don't be in a hurry to run. Because if it doesn't work, then you get confused. So we are going to run the same script, same Hibernate Bootstrapper. But this time, whenever you say get factory, the static initializer block will be called. When you say configure method, your container means now Hibernate, is going to read this mapping entry. Then it will check is there any table because of thanks to this update? Is there any users table for this user? Of course, the answer is no. And we'll see whether the table generation works. So give me a moment. I'm running the same Hibernate script. I mean, same tester. Watch the console as always. And you should see Hibernate uses something called as beautiful process called as reflection, which is a pending topic. And you should see that create users table. It will add those primary key constraint, unique constraints and all. Don't trust Hibernate so easily. And you see here, you should see your users table automatically created. Of course, empty. That we will do in the lab session. And if I say users table, we'll just see whether all those annotations have worked. So auto increment, primary key, all looks fine. Email is unique. Yeah, long blob. I was not sure whether it is a huge blob or a long blob. It is a long blob. And all the instructions, including the sizes and the date, is working. Tell me, is it working fine? Is the table, did the table get created? And with all the annotations. So that is more than sufficient. Already I stretched it up quite a bit, but I just wanted to complete it. So take your time and tell your lab faculties that you will be joining little late because I stretched it by 15 minutes or whatever. So revise it completely somewhere around 4 o'clock, 4-ish. Yeah, of course, that goes without saying. So I'll this thing join. I'll take up any questions, queries and all that things. Of course, I'll revise the Hibernate part of it totally. And then 1 hour at least we're going to spend together to show you a little bit about Hibernate DAO, the starting of CRUD. Okay, so let me create this. This anyway I upload in Google Drive. But anyway, people are asking, so I should give. So day 9 Hibernate, add to archive. And sure, let me send you this. So you can just import this project directly. But I'm against importing because at least once you should do all these steps on your own to build the confidence, starting from that Maven project structure and everything, and try it out. Otherwise, we are there to help you. That will be all. See you in the labs. You are all most welcome.